In the game of loans, you either win or you learn. Welcome to the game of loans, where fortunes are forged and empires are built. Your hosts, lords of lending and wholesaling, are here to guide you through the realm of real estate and wealth building. Brace yourselves, cash flow is coming.
How much money do I need to start investing in real estate?
You know, there are options out there for you to acquire your own property with as little as 0% down. But that needs to be, a rural property that qualifies under USDA, or you need to be a veteran to be able to go out and get the VA financing. But for any normal consumer out there today, you can get into a mortgage, with as little as 3% down. You can request closing cost assistance from the seller to cover all your other closing costs. You can get the down payment gifted to you by a family member or friend. So really you need nothing. You just need to be resourceful, and you need to be able to have the right amount of income to be able to qualify for that payment, so that you can qualify for that as your primary. Now, if you're buying...
You could even get the 3% or 3.5% from some government grants.
Yeah, down payment assistance program.
Down payment assistance program.
Yeah. Now if you're going to buy your first true investment property and you're not willing to move into it as your primary residence, you're typically going to need somewhere between 20 to 25% down to buy an investment property. So depending on what price point, if you're buying a $100,000 house, that's 20 to 25K down plus closing costs. If you're buying $1 million property for your first one, that's $100,000 plus closing cost. $200,000 plus closing costs. So depending on how much you have saved up should determine what price point you're going out and acquiring. And the other thing to just factor into is if you're buying that to just hold it as a rental, is make sure you have positive cash flow and you have reserves available that in the event the tenant moves out or there's repairs that need to be made or your rent doesn't cover your mortgage payment, that you have the reserves to help you, sustain that payment. And I typically tell first-time investors, and our underwriting requirements on this is typically 6 months payments in reserves in their bank account when they acquire the property on top of all the closing costs and down payment.
But that's the minimum, right?
That's the minimum.
What you're usually recommending, 12 months.
12, yeah.
Right.
Good. Okay. How do I finance my first rental property? Please repeat the question. What I was going to answer.
How do I finance the first rental property? Mm-hmm. Well, again, I think Ross had said earlier, there's two options. If you want to go out the traditional way, then you're going to have to put anywhere between 20 to 25% down. And then you could get what's called a DSCR loan, which is a debt service coverage ratio loan, meaning, how much am I collecting and what's my payment, right? So if I'm collecting $1,000 and my payment is $1,000, that's a 1-0, meaning it's even. If I'm collecting $1,250 and my payment is $1,000, then my ratio is a 1.25, right? So obviously the higher the ratio, the better it is. That's if you can't prove your income or, you don't make enough money, so on and so forth. That's a no income.
You can have a lower credit score too, right?
No, you can't. You can't
I thought
have
it was
a lower
like 600.
They have financing down to like 640, but you're putting like 35 to 45% down in those cases.
Yeah, and then the rates are going to be generally high, so it's not going to debt service.
The one exception is the recent Freddie Mac product that came out for multi-units where there's a 5% down program.
That's a full doc.
Yeah,
right.
But it's income based. Yeah.
Right. So then, it's both actually, right?
Yeah. But you can use the rental income to qualify
correct.
for it.
So now, if you can, like Ross was saying, if you can prove your income and you have relatively decent credit, you can go out, use the Freddie Mac program, Freddie Fannie program, put 5% down. And then you could use the cash flow of the home, whether it's a 2-unit, 3-unit, 4-unit, to qualify for it.
And that's restricted to 2 to 4 units.
2 to 4,
yeah, so
correct.
Can't do it on just
Now,
single family or condos.
The other thing that Ross said, which I agree with, was that if you're going to go that route, you might as well, even if you want to get multiple units, then go out, get a 2-unit as your first primary residence. Rent yourself the bottom one, live in it, and then rent up the top, or do the opposite. Whatever, you stay in one, you rent the other. You're cash flowing. You're learning how to become a landlord, and then you repeat. You move out to that second unit, rent that out. You've had enough experience, and you go buy another 2-unit or 3-unit as your primary. You get in with anywhere between 3.5% to 5% down, and you just do it that way. That's the best way to do it.
Okay. is house hacking, and is it a good strategy for beginners?
House hacking ties in with the last two questions. You basically buy a property as your primary, you turn around and you put a tenant in it, you go buy another primary, you put a tenant in it, you go buy another primary. As long as those properties cash flow for more than your mortgage payment, that income or that payment doesn't count against your debt to income when qualifying for the next house. And if you have residual income, depending on how long you've had that as a rental property, you can use that income to enhance your personal W-2 wages to qualify for an even bigger house. And so that's the number one strategy for house hacking. And for part-time investors or people who don't want to fully get in there, roll up their sleeves, swing hammers, deal with, the hard stuff that real estate investors have to do day in and day out. It's a great way to just, scratch the surface, build up your property count. The more doors you have, ideally over time with appreciation, you'll build more equity. You'll be able to tap that equity in the form of cash out refis and then use that equity to go out and acquire more properties. So if you want to stay in your professional job and work your 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, or you just don't have the time to go out and apply it as a real estate investor, that's a great way to get started.
How do I find off-market deals for real estate investing?
DustinWholesales.com.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. DustinBuys.com, DustinRingCoaching.com. The best way to do it is, first off, build a brand. Start in your backyard. Start locally. Start shouting it to the moon. Start telling everyone what you're doing. Hey, I buy houses fast for cash. Show up to the real estate meetings in your town. Tell your mom, tell your family, tell your friends. Get business cards. Start sending mail. Start getting bandit signs. Those signs you see during political season when it's time to vote. Wherever the candidates are on, so I call them bandit signs. Start putting those out on polls. Start putting them out in rural areas. Start cold calling. You need to start working on your cold call skills. I mean, the best way to find off-market properties is to be direct to seller, and the only way to be direct to seller is to be direct to seller. Whether that's knocking on their door,
farming.
Well, yeah, whether that's knocking on their door,
right.
Whether that's leaving a note on the door, driving around looking for houses with tall grass, or essentially just farming. I mean, It's a numbers game. So if I send out 10,000 letters and 10 people say, "Yeah, I want to sell my property," then that's the name of the game. Marketing. You get really good at learning how to find good off-market deals without having to go to a wholesaler. Mm-hmm. That's when not only can you assign the stuff that you don't want, but you can cherry pick and keep the really, really sweet deals yourself. Those unicorn properties, those properties you'll probably never get rid of, or if you do get them, you can sell them for double or triple of what you bought them for. So there's many ways to get in front of sellers. Texting, I do billboards, I do radio commercials, I do TV commercials, so there's a lot of different ways to get in front of them. But if you're starting out and if you don't have a lot of money, driving around, leaving notes on doors, door knocking, man, getting dirty, man, guerrilla marketing is what I call it. Going out and getting dirty.
A lot of people want to see you also, right? I mean, you form that fucking connection.
Yeah.
And there was this guy, like I said, back in the day in the 90s, we didn't call it wholesaling. He had a company called Vernon Homes, okay? He called it Vernon Homes because he was on Vernon Avenue in fucking Brooklyn. This motherfucker, any house that went on sale on Vernon Avenue, he got first crack at it. Why? And this was, it's not like a fucking small street. This thing is long. And, it ran from Bedford-Stuyvesant to the Bushwick or whatever the fuck it was. Anyway, and any house that went up for sale, he was so active on Vernon Avenue that he would get the first call. I mean, he had a lockdown on one fucking avenue, which is crazy.
For those people who do not have the time to go out there and become a wholesaler, I'm going to give you one of my secrets to finding off-market properties. How many people do you know in your network that are real estate agents? I've got a few family members and a lot of friends that are real estate agents, and they go into listing appointments all the time. And people want to list their house and get top dollar, but the house is just trashed. It's not ready for market. It's not, something that you can list and get top dollar for. So a realtor has a fiduciary duty to act in the best interest of the client. So you give them the option. We can put your house up for sale as is, and it's probably going to sit on the market for a while, and there's very limited buyers that are going to offer you something. You're probably going to get lowballed. You can put the money in and renovate the house and get it to, listing standard, and then get top dollar for it. But most people don't have the money or the time to do that. Or I got somebody, his name's Ras, who has cash, can come in and offer you something. It might not be the most attractive offer, but you're not going to have the 6% real estate commission. You're not going to have the title services fees and closing costs that you would have on a traditional transaction. So while it might be 10% below what the as-is market value is, you're probably going to net right around the same, and you're not going to have to sit there and wait for an offer. And so what I do is they'll kick me deals all the time where like, this house is a hoarder house. And like, I'll come in and I'll be like, I'll pay this for it if they'll take it. And surprisingly, most of them will take it, you know, as long as I can work with them and give them the certain amount of days they want to move out. It might be 45 days, you know, it might be, you know, they want to live in it rent free for a couple months post possession, or they want me to deal with the junk out and all the other stuff. But those are the best deals I've found are just listing appointments that my brother, my mom, my sister, you know, my friends have gone into, and they're like, I can't sell this property, help me out here. But they have to present to them all the options. As a wholesaler, you don't have the fiduciary duty to do that, so you can go straight in with an offer. But as a realtor, you got to be a little bit more cautious. But for the realtors out there listening, you know, work with people like me that can help you provide liquidity to your client and offer a value and a service. And, you know, for people who are looking for off-market properties, go out to your network of real estate agents and let them know what you're looking for, and be prepared to step in and close on that deal if they present you with something. Because just like every other thing in life, if you execute, you build trust. You know, if you waste people's time, they're never going to come back to you. So make 100%. Sure you're in a position, you understand you have your financing lined up. You know you can close on that deal if you say you're going to do it. But it's a great way to get off-market deals and not have to do it, like, drop a sweat to get them.
You've been listening to The Game of Loans, where real estate battles are fought and won. Make sure to fortify your defenses by subscribing. Cash flow is coming, and we'll be back next time to help you claim your throne. The war of wealth continues.